Welcome to Finance, Accounting and Banking. The trial balance. The objectives. 1. To define a trial balance. 2. To explain the format of a trial balance. 3. To discuss the errors that may cause a trial balance not to balance. 4. To explain the purpose of a trial balance. And 5. To describe limitations of a trial balance. That is, the errors that cannot be detected by a trial balance. A trial balance is a financial statement prepared at a particular date showing all the debit balances in one column and all the credit balances in another column. The format of a trial balance. The title has 3 lines. The company name, the name trial balance, and the period when you're preparing that trial balance. Then we have the details column, the debit column, and credit column. The debit column is where those account balances that show debit balances are recorded. And the credit column is where those accounts that show credit balances are recorded. Normally, assets and expenses exhibit or show debit balances. So they will appear in the debit column. And liabilities, capital, and revenue accounts normally exhibit credit balance, and their totals are recorded or entered on the credit column of a trial balance. And then the bottom figures for both columns must be equal or balance. Moving forward, the details column is the account from which the amounts are drawn. For example, the asset accounts, expense accounts, liability accounts, capital accounts, revenue accounts, like cash account, bank account, furniture account. We have expenses like salaries account, liabilities like creditors account, capital, and revenue account like commission received, discount received, etc. Then we have DR column, the column where the amount from a debit balance account will be entered. For example, the motor vehicle account, cash account, purchases account, salaries account, discount allowed. These are asset and expense accounts. Then credit column, the column where the amount from a credit balance account will be entered. Examples are creditors account, 5-year circle loan account, it is a long-term debt, sales account, commission income account, discount received account. These are revenue accounts. An example, Kamala Harris Limited had the following balances at the end of the financial year ending on 31st December 2010. Furniture, 80,000 shillings. Cash, 200,000 shillings. Total expenses, 150,000. Purchase, 500,000. Creditors, 120,000. Bank, 300,000, sales 800,000, and capital 310,000. Required. Prepare Kamala Harris Limited trial balance as at 31st December 2010. The answer. So, the 3 lines, Kamala Harris Limited, the name of the company, then the name trial balance as at 31st December 2010. Then you have the three columns, details, debit, and credit columns. We've seen we have furniture, which is an asset account, 80,000. Cash, 200,000, which is an asset account, 200,000 debit column. We have bank account, 300,000. It is an asset account entered on the debit side. Then we have purchases, 500,000. It is an expense account, 500,000. Then we have total expenses, 150,000, entered on the debit side. Then we have creditors, sales and capital being entered on the credit side because they exhibit credit balances. And then we have the total here. These figures are equal or they balance. We look at errors that may cause the trial balance not to balance. For example, if a transaction was recorded on only one account, either a credit or debit entry was made. So that would be partial omission. So the trial balance would not balance with that figure that has been omitted. You also have different amounts for the same transaction might have been entered in the accounts. 3, transferring or posting a wrong balance to the trial balance. 4, failure to post a balance from the ledger account to the trial balance. 5, posting a balance to the wrong side of the trial balance. 6, recording a transaction on the same side of the affected accounts or partial reversal of entries. 7, arithmetic mistakes might have been made when balancing the ledger accounts. And 8, arithmetic errors in balancing the trial balance itself. The purpose of a trial balance: 1, checking the accuracy in ledger accounts as to whether 1, the rule of double entry has been observed or complied with. 2, whether there are arithmetical errors in the ledger accounts. Purpose number 2, the trial balance summarizes the information in the ledger accounts. 3, the trial balance facilitates preparation of final accounts. And 4, a quick source of information for anyone who wants to know the balance in any account. So, we have limitations of the trial balance. That is, the errors the trial balance cannot cure or detect. The agreement of a trial balance only assures the bookkeeper that the total debit entries is equal to the total credit entries. There are, however, some errors that, although present, the trial balance would still balance. For example, the error of total omission, the error of original entry, the error of commission, compensating errors, complete reversal of entries error, and error of principal. We look at each of them separately. 1, errors of total omission or not recorded anywhere in the accounts. This occurs when a transaction takes place and nothing is recorded in the books of accounts. For example, a sale of motor vehicle on credit to a certain buyer, for example, John, at 800,000 on 1st January 2020 may result in a business forgetting to record it in books of accounts and hence will not be detected by the trial balance. So, the double entry rule will not have been complied with. So, both the credit and debit sides will have this figure omitted in the trial balance. How do we correct this? It is corrected through recording it through the general journal. That is, you debit what should be debited and credit what should be credited. And this is the general journal, and we are rectifying that. So on 1st of January 2020, we debit John's account with 800,000. John has acquired a vehicle worth 800,000, and then we credit motor vehicle account. The motor vehicle account is losing a vehicle worth 800,000, credit side. And then you do the narration. A record of a sale of motor vehicle to John that was omitted has been recorded now. Error number 2, error of original entry or wrong figure. It occurs when a transaction takes place and an amount other than the correct one is recorded in the books of account. Both ledger accounts are entered the wrong amount, thus not affecting the trial balance figures. For example, on 1st of May 2010, Linton Supermarkets sold goods worth 250,000 by cash. The transaction was recorded as 25,000. So, the sales account was recorded 25,000 and cash account 25,000 on the debit side. This is the original record. But then, if you want to correct that, you now record it correctly. 250,000 is the correct figure. 250,000 is the correct figure now. We move on to error of commission or wrong account, but in the same class. For example, when dealing with debtors or creditors who have names that may appear similar. It occurs when a transaction takes place, but an entry is made in the wrong account of the same class with the correct amount. For example, on 1st of May 2010, Kenneth Hardware sold goods worth 2,000 to Otieno by credit, but it was recorded in Atieno's account. We have Otieno, we have Atieno. These are debtors to us. So we may enter a transaction in any one of them interchangeably and wrongly. So this is the wrong transaction. We recorded in Atieno's account that we sold to her goods worth 2,000 instead of Otieno. So we establish Otieno account and then record the transaction correctly on the debit side, and then we debit the sales account with the same amount of money transacted. Compensating errors involves overcast or undercasting transactions or recording. These cancel each other out, but when you detect them, you correct them accordingly. So these are errors whose effect cancels out, e.g., overdebiting debtors by 300,000 and underdebiting cash account by 300,000 as an example. Look at another example. David Limited sold goods worth 2,700 shillings to Joseph, a debtor, but recorded as 27,000 on 5th of May 2010. So we correct that. So the original transaction was recorded as per the black items here. So the sales account was credited with 27,000 cash, and the cash account was debited with 27,000. But the actual figure should be 2,700. So we record the balance of that figure between the error and the correct amount on the opposite side, so that when balancing, we'll be left with our 2,700 here. So we record 24,300 on the debit side of the sales account and 24,300 on the credit side of the cash account. So the 24,300 figure will correct the overcast recorded earlier in these two accounts. Then error of complete reversal of entries. These are errors that occur when entries are made on the opposite sides of the accounts affected. For example, a credit sale to Odhiambo of 20,000 is recorded by debiting sales and crediting Odhiambo's account. So, we should credit sales account since it is a revenue account, and we should debit Odhiambo's account since it is a debtors account that is increasing, but the opposite has been done wrongly. So how do we correct that? We debit Odhiambo's account and credit sales account the way it should be done. So the sales account had been debited with 20,000 instead of crediting. So this is the correction. And Odhiambo and debtor had been credited with that amount instead of being debited, because debtors are assets. When assets increase, they are debited. So the 20,000 figure in red will correct the error recorded earlier on the wrong side of each of these accounts. Then error of principal, the last one, number 6. It occurs when the transaction is recorded in the wrong account of a different class from the correct one. For example, repairs to machinery was debited in machinery account instead of debiting in the repairs account. Or a purchase or a sale of fixed asset to sales account or purchases account instead of a fixed asset account. We look at an example. We record or we correct the error by recording it in the correct account. So the machinery was debited with 15,000 instead of machinery repairs account. Both are supposed to be debited when they increase. So we confused machinery and the machinery repairs. So machinery account was wrongly debited with this amount instead of the machine repairs, which is an expense account. And then the cash account will be credited with 15,000 because we are giving out cash for repairs. So the figure 15,000 in red recorded in machinery repairs account will correct the error recorded earlier in the wrong account. Thank you. Subscribe and like my videos and my channel. Edward Kariuki Mathenge, kariukied2010@gmail.com. Welcome.